According to a new poll, 8 out of 10 Americans think the country is out of control. The Wall Street Journal and NBC News poll asked Americans, quote, when it comes to the country these days, do you generally feel that things in the country are under control or out of control? 15% answered the country is under control. A whopping 80% believe the country is out of control. 3% believe the country is a little bit of both right now. And 2% are not sure. Here to talk about this is Travis County GOP Chairman Matt Mackowiak and Democratic consultant Joe Deshotel. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks. Sure.
So, Joe, again, 80% of Americans polled think the country is out of control. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, they're absolutely right. All you have to do is turn on the TV and see what we're experiencing really is a lack of leadership across the board from the top down. Desperate Americans are really desperate for leadership right now. And they see Biden provides that. And that's why the polls are showing Biden is growing his lead across the country, both nationally and in the battleground states where it matters. They want somebody who can unite the country. The country is not united right now. And the president hasn't done a single thing to try to fix that. He can only go to Twitter and air personal grievances and call people names. And now we're seeing members of his own party say that they can't stand it anymore. And they're not going to vote for him anymore. And I think that's having a big impact, and mainly because they're seeing that this is also going to affect the ability for Republicans to maintain the Senate. And we're seeing they're losing control of the Senate right now. And I think that's why we're seeing that response from some high-profile Republicans.
Matt, what are your thoughts? What do you make of the results of this latest poll?
Well, I think people feel like the country's out of control because they've seen images on their television screen for 10 days of riots and looting and criminal vandalism in major cities across the country. Now, there's no question there's been some inspiring peaceful protests, certainly, and the majority of people who are out there, the strong majority, are peaceful. But when you see the kind of looting, which thankfully has decreased in the last few days, that does make people feel like things are out of control. It reminds people of the late 1960s. And so there is a sense that this is a difficult chapter for our country. I do think we'll get through this. I think you'll see both parties come together and discuss real ideas to reform policing, things like banning chokeholds, things like requiring police to render aid, things like ending or reforming selective immunity for police who break the law. There's going to be a bipartisan consensus on a lot of these things, and that will mean that George Floyd did not die in vain, and I think that's something we should all aspire to.
Joe, several other presidential polls were released today showing that Joe Biden is continuing to gain ground, especially with women. How has the former vice president been able to swing these numbers with very little campaigning?
Well, they remember him. I mean, they remember 8 years of Barack Obama's economy doing very well. And in fact, from the time he took office till the time he left office, unemployment was going down, jobs were being created. That was maintained through the first couple of years of Trump's presidency until a real crisis hit. And then you realize what happens when you don't have a real leadership. But I did want to go back and say I appreciate, Matt, what he said about the types of policing changes that we're going to need to see, both from Democrats and Republicans coming together. And the ones that he mentioned are right on, and we need to see more of that. And it's going to take both parties coming together to get that done. But we're not going to be able to do that, I don't believe, with Trump in the White House. And I think Americans see that, and they are inspired by the demonstrations we've seen, and they want action to be taken. And if action isn't taken, we're going to continue to see this. So I think that's why we need a new direction in this country.